What's up, gamers? Dreamcastguy here, talking today about that Nintendo Direct we just got, because this mini partner showcase, it was okay. It had some interesting games, it had a chance to see what's coming next for Nintendo Switch, but perhaps what's even more shocking than the Direct itself is the fact that people online seem to be extremely angry. I mean, today when I woke up, I'm kind of just here, I'm enjoying my breakfast, I'm sipping on a Red Bull, and I'm kind of baffled that a huge chunk of the internet is now claiming that Nintendo is dead in 2020. Now, obviously that's a dramatic statement. People are being a little bit ridiculous just to be silly, but even as we look at the Direct itself, this is the Direct that was just uploaded here a minute ago onto YouTube. Look at the dislike ratio already. It's kind of bonkers, and what's even more insane is every time I've refreshed it, there is literally thousands more dislikes, and this was just posted. The fact that this is just being so unanimously kind of annoyed, like people are just so disgruntled, I think that this kind of brings up an interesting conversation as to how Nintendo is handling this year. Now, let's just say something really obviously here at the start. Nintendo did something correctly here, and I think we should give them some credit. It was smart of them not to hype this Direct up. They didn't actually tease it. There was no official tweet that said, tune in tomorrow for another Nintendo Direct. They just shadow dropped it. Straight up, if you go over to Twitter, this was it. They just straight up tweeted it out and said, hey, we're having a new chance to look at some games exclusively from our developers and publishing partners for the Nintendo Switch. And this was a good choice because, quite frankly, if they had hyped this up, there would have been a lot more disappointment. But when I actually look at the dislikes and when I look at the replies, it paints a very different picture. If you actually look at people saying, like I honestly watch these games less and less because the presentation was so boring. Like, when I see stuff like this, it's just kind of mind-blowing. People showing pictures of snapped Nintendo Switches and stuff. I think that what's funny is that people are starting to realize that Nintendo has basically taken this year off. I think the major thing that we need to just acknowledge, and some people are definitely going to be offended by this, it's difficult now to be a Nintendo gamer. And what I mean by that is, typically in the past, you could actually own just a Nintendo console. When it came to the GameCube or the Super Nintendo or even the Nintendo 64, you could just own a GameCube and play only games on that system. Even previous generations, you could own a Wii and play the Wii continuously. But now, with the Nintendo Switch, if you want a chance to experience the biggest and best stuff in gaming, you can't just own a Switch. You actually have to own a second console. Like, I've seen a lot of people say, I'm a PC gamer and I love my Nintendo Switch, or I have an Xbox Series X, or sorry, an Xbox One X, and that's what I use to play, like, big open world stuff in Assassin's Creed, but when I want to have just a fun little experience, I pick up my little Nintendo Switch Mini and I take it on the go. I think we have to realize now that Nintendo, I think that what's going on is that they just don't care as much about the quarter-to-quarter sales. They're no longer concerned with deadlines or goals or really keeping you happy. If you actually look at some of the sales numbers of something like freaking Animal Crossing, which has sold tens of millions of units in a matter of months, Nintendo doesn't care about you anymore. Like, Nintendo isn't concerned with giving you a steady stream of content. Nintendo isn't worried about making sure their fans are happy. They're making so many billions of dollars, they're not really concerned specifically with how much stuff is actually going to impress you in a particular year. And that can definitely be disappointing because a lot of us like to imagine these companies as, you know, game developers. We like to think of them as the people that are out there trying to make the cool experiences we love, but these are just definitely first and foremost some giant soulless corporations. Now, what's funny to me is when I see all these memes like this one here, this is Nibel, huge fan of Nibel, but this is very funny to me. Nintendo is really skipping 2020, the crying ash meme, and a lot of people have this sentiment. A lot of people are out there saying, what happened to Nintendo? Where are the glory days when we were getting a huge freaking game every freaking week? Does anybody remember, like, Broketober, when there were like 5 big games in 4 weeks? These times have kind of come to pass, but there is a second side of this that I want to talk about, which is definitely the fact that I have had a chance to actually talk to some insiders myself about some of the stuff going on at Nintendo, and something I've heard some people say is that A lot of people in Japan have been having trouble with the work from home. Because of the pandemic and stuff, there have been a lot of difficulties because a lot of Japanese culture is about work life. It's about going in and going to the office and trying to maximize your team efforts, like efficiency and people trying to make the most work possible. Like, Japanese work ethic is a totally different thing. It is crazy how much these people manage to do that is incredibly impressive. And so this pandemic stuff has apparently, from everybody I've talked to, it has dramatically slowed them down, which is why at the beginning of their directs, they keep showing this giant warning saying, hey, COVID's screwing us over. This is not an excuse. This is literally them telling you the reason that some stuff has slowed down. Now, with that being said, I do want to actually dig into the one thing about this direct that is incredibly cool. Most of this direct sucked. I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I wasn't really impressed, but at this point, I'm not even disappointed. Like, okay, whatever, fine. You're not going to be releasing any games I'm going to buy. That's fine, whatever. They released, they're showing like a boxing game and a tank game. This stuff all looks fine. The Kingdom Hearts freaking music game, Just Dance. Okay, these are all fine. The one that definitely did grab me, though, was the fact that they're releasing Final Fantasy Legends Trilogy. This is absolutely bonkers to me. Like, the Final Fantasy Legends games, I own them actually physically on my Game Boy. I'm a huge Game Boy collector. The Final Fantasy Legends trilogy, though, these were called the Saga games over in Japan. They were incredibly unique. They were actually based much more on difficulty from what I remember. They were trying to basically be like more hardcore games, and the major reason they even exist is because the Game Boy was an absolute explosive success in the 90s. Like, pretty much every gamer either had a Game Boy or was trying to save up to get a Game Boy. So Square Enix recognized that sales potential and decided to release these very interesting standalone games for the Game Boy, and they worked. Like, straight up, here's an actual photograph of me playing freaking games on my Game Boy. That is how popular it was. This is me as a little kid loving my freaking Game Boy. I think that it's really cool that they're taking these games that only kind of existed in this very narrow time period and bringing them forward. I think that honestly this is something that isn't getting enough credit. The Final Fantasy Legends Trilogy Collection is probably going to get a lot of attention when it comes out in December, and I believe they've already listed the price as $20. So 3 classic RPGs. That is super cool to me. I'm going to be playing it. I'm definitely going to be reviewing it because at this point I feel like not enough people even know that it exists. To really sum up my thoughts here, I guess I'm in a spot now where I guess if I have to just be brutally honest here, I don't really care much about Nintendo anymore. Like, when they release games, I'm excited, I play the stuff, I'm glad I have the hardware, but I guess I expect nothing. I don't expect them to come out with any big games. I'm not really expecting, like, anything. Like, they have just been so quiet for so long at this point, I'm just kind of ready for anything. If they drop some news, I'll be happy. If they stay silent for the next 6 months, honestly, I don't think I'll even care anymore. I have other games to play. I have other stuff to enjoy. I'm ready for Cyberpunk. If Nintendo wants to sit this generation out, that's their business. But these have just been some off-the-cuff thoughts after watching that Nintendo Direct. Have you had a chance to watch the Direct? Are you angry? Are you happy with it? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. But do me the biggest favor of all and keep dreaming. Oh man, I've been awake for a bit now, but I'm still not fully alert. I love you guys a bunch. Thanks for all the love on the channel, and I am finishing up the Final Fantasy, what is it called? Crystal Chronicles Remastered review. That'll be up tomorrow. Maybe Friday. We'll see. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, you know, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.